Welcome to another episode of The Artsy Raven, a show about writing and publishing with your host, J.F. Garrard.
Welcome to another episode of The Artsy Raven, and today our special guest is Eleanor Lerman. So Eleanor is an acclaimed author whose 50-year career spans award-winning poetry, short stories, and novels. She was one of the youngest finalists for the National Book Award in Poetry and has received major honors including the Juniper Prize and the Lenore Marshall Poetry Prize. Her fiction has also earned wide recognition, such as the John W. Campbell Award for the Best Book of Science Fiction and a shortlisting for the Chautauqua Prize. Lerman is a recipient of prestigious fellowships from the Guggenheim Foundation, the NEA, and the New York Foundation for the Arts. Her latest poetry collection, Slim Blue Universe, was a finalist for the Eric Hoffer Medal Provocateur, and her upcoming short story collection, King the Wonder Dog and Other Stories, will be released by She Writes Press in 2026. So welcome.
Hi, nice to meet you finally.
Yeah, we're having a bit of tech trouble here.
Yes.
Okay.
We had to call in help, including a little dog, but we're finally here.
So tell me a little bit about how you, well, I mean, you write both short fiction and poem. Tell me a little bit of about your career and how did you get into this?
I think from what my elementary school friends have told me, I think I was always writing, always. And my mother, who died when I was 13, must have known who I was because sitting on my desk is the last gift she gave me, which was a manual typewriter. So she must have known that I needed something to write with. What really helped me was, I don't know what they teach in school now about poetry, if they teach any, but when I was a kid, a long, long time ago, in school, they taught the classic poets. And it didn't mean anything to me, like Elizabeth Barrett Brown. I don't know what any of that was. But when I was 17, I was living in a place called Rockaway. It's like a little beach town that sticks off the edge of Queens in New York City. And I went into the town and I was in the drugstore and there was a rack of books in the front. And I was looking through the books and I saw a book by Leonard Cohen. I knew him because at that time he was a singer. He had a song on the radio, Suzanne, that was very popular. And I didn't know he was also a writer, so I bought the book, a little book of poems called The Spice Box of Earth. And I had to take a bus home. The bus was maybe 20 minutes. That 20 minutes while I was reading that book changed my life because I read that book and I said to myself, I get it. I can do this. This is what I'm supposed to do. So that was like my first teacher was that book, was Leonard Cohen. And just fate played some strange roles in my life. I had a job when I was 18. I was working in a harpsichord workshop and on Charles Street in the Village, and behind our building, there was a little carriage house. The man who lived in the carriage house had to go through our workshop to get his mail. I used to write poems on the blackboard instead of the parts that we needed to order. And one day, his name was Harrison Starr, he was a film producer. And one day he came in and said, "Who's writing all these poems?" I said, "Me." And he said, "They're very good. You should get them published." I said, "I don't know how to do that." And he said, "I do." And so that was the beginning. I had help. I had a lot of help. Fate sent me, books and friends and people that, sent me on my way. So that's how it all began.
Was it hard getting published the first time?
I was very lucky. It wasn't, because what happened was Harrison had suggested who I should send it to. And I sent it to, I don't even remember, but it was the publishing company that published Leonard Cohen. And I'd written them a letter and I said, how much I love Leonard Cohen and blah, blah, and here's this book. You have to remember, again, these are typewritten pages. So I had to sit, for hours and type all these poems that I scribbled on yellow lined paper. And I sent off this manuscript, and I got a very nice letter back. And the man was the head of the publishing company, said, the only poet we publish is Leonard Cohen, but this is really good, and you should send it here. And what he told me to do was to send it to Wesleyan University Press, and they published it. So, this isn't the usual. I know people really, really struggle with this. I did much later in life. I had a lot of struggles getting fiction published, but this was surprising. Again, it was just fate. And that was the book that was nominated for a National Book Award.
Yeah, and you've won like so many awards. Like, do the awards influence your writing at all? Or is it just a chance thing?
It doesn't. What you think is if you win a lot of awards or you win prestigious awards, somehow it's going to change your life. Things you're gonna have a much better life and everything's going to be wonderful. And it doesn't do anything at all.
You're
And
collecting the title, yeah.
Yeah. So, what it gives you is a nice resume. But then, the struggle you have to have is apparently I'm very good at this. I'm winning all these awards. Why is my life so bad? So, it's nice because it's an affirmation, but it doesn't really do anything about your actual life.
Now you've received fellowships like from the Guggenheim Foundation and the New York Foundation. I mean, what kind of experiences were these?
Nothing. What happens is you go to some fancy room somewhere in a foundation or a hotel or something, and they give you a little thing you wear around your neck that says Eleanor Lerman, recipient of such and such, and you shake hands with a lot of people, and you eat canapes, and that's it. It doesn't really Nothing happens. You just meet a lot of artsy people who are all trying to outdo each other with looking important. And then you go home to your, at that time, crummy little apartment. It's still your own life. So
You remind me of another poet I spoke to called Joy Kagawa in Canada, and she was like, when I win awards, I'm just wearing my denim shirt. Why should I dress up for anything?
That's right. What I will say that at one point there was money involved, and that made a difference because it helped me buy the little condo I live in now. But that was much, much later in life.
Okay. Now, thinking about your years of writing, like, do you think there are certain themes that you tend to gravitate towards?
It's interesting. My brother and I are very close. He's about 4 years younger than me, and he's always the one who tells me what I've written about because I think I'm writing whatever it is I think, and he then looks at it and says, "Well, no, this is what happened to us, and these are the feelings that we had," and so he sees what happened. We had a very difficult part of our childhood with a stepmother and a stepsister with very serious mental illness. So things were a little crazy in the household. And so he sees, all the things that happened. And so I think the themes really, it's come to something simple. In my newest book, which is called Oleander Marriage, I think the theme is grief.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what I've been working towards through all the books. It's how do you deal with grief? How do you deal with loss? And you think when you're young, you think you're very strong and nothing's going to hurt you, and you can turn all this pain into experiences. But grief is grief, pain is pain. It's you have to learn to do whatever you're going to do with it. I turned it into writing. I turned it into poetry and stories.
Okay. Now, I'm looking at the thing your PR person sent, and apparently your mother had died when you were young. Like, did that shape a lot of the things you write?
That changed everything because my brother and I had, very normal kind. We lived in the Bronx, and this was the 1950s, early 1960s. So we had exactly the kind of life you think people had. Nice little life. I went to school. He went to school. My mother made dinner. My father had a job. We watched TV. Very nice, lovely. And then she died she had cancer. It was terrible, painful. Um, so after that, my father didn't know how to take care of us. My grandmother, who was my mother's mother, um, came in and she would make dinner, but we'd sit and have dinner, and my grandmother would say to my father, "Why didn't you die instead of my daughter?" So this was the life we were now
Whoa,
living.
whoa, whoa.
Uh, so yeah, her death changed everything. Eventually, I left home when I was 18. My brother left when he was 16. So it was this enormous change in life from the nice little middle class Jewish kids in the Bronx life to something completely different. You're on your own, you figure it out yourself. I
Sounds like
remember
your father was trying to figure out things too if he's saying stuff like that.
he was very lonely. No, that was my grandmother
Oh,
saying he
sorry.
was very, very lonely.
Oh,
You know, my mother had run everything. She did everything. He didn't know what bank she kept whatever money they had in. He didn't know how to write a check.
mm,
So he was lost.
okay. Now you yourself also faced some illness, and I guess you're using now you're writing faster, or
No, what happened was, I don't know, it's like 10 years ago now. Out of nowhere, I just got an infection. Um, no one could figure out what it was. I was in the hospital for 6 weeks. I was in rehab for 2 weeks. I couldn't walk because I'd been laying down for so long. And that you don't realize when you're that sick. I was like in la la land. You know, I was just laying in the hospital bed and watching TV. People would come in and do operations or stuff, and I'd be watching Wheel of Fortune or something. So I don't think none of this registered until after I got out of the hospital. And you realize that's when you really do realize, oh, they're not kidding when they say you're going to die at some point. Because when you're young, it's impossible. It's so hypothetical. You're not going to die. Other people might die, but you're not going to die. But when you realize, yeah, you are going to die at some point, and it might not be pretty, um, it makes a difference. It's so the themes, if you're a writer, I guess, the themes that come in are mortality. You start realizing uh, this trip is going to end at some point, and it's very scary. It's really very scary. It's still scary. So what you do, I mean, what I did anyway, is I compartmentalize. So now I still don't believe I'm ever going to die. So that's how I fixed that.
well, I think most people are like that. Well, you said
Right.
until it happens to
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
um, it's not real, really. So,
No, it can't be, because if you had that in your mind all the time, you'd be paralyzed.
yeah,
So
pretty much.
yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your latest collection, Oleander Marriage.
Oleander marriage. Oleander is a flower, but it's bitter. So it's the juxtaposition of a beautiful flower, I guess the image, with the fact that it's underneath, it's not beautiful. Underneath, it's dangerous. I hadn't even realized that when I used that in a poem. I hadn't realized that that another one of these things that just happened. I just didn't realize that the flower that I thought was so pretty was also pretty deadly. But again, this collection, I think, focuses more on grief. But one of the things I've used as a way of taking the reader through this collection is Godzilla. Because when I was a little kid, um, there was a movie that played at Channel 9 in New York City, played one movie every night, the same for a week. So every night I could watch Godzilla 5 nights in a row. And I always felt very bad for him, because I thought, here's this monster, he's sleeping under the ocean. These people wake him up and then they're mad at him. He has a right to destroy Tokyo if that's what he wants, because they woke him up. So I always felt very bad for him. Um, So I used Godzilla in a way as my companion through this, um, as sort of my symbol of when you wake the monster that's inside of all of us, or inside of all our lives, you have to make friends with it also. Because if you're afraid of yourself and the things that are going to happen to you, then again, you're going to be paralyzed. So I had my old friend Godzilla with me in this book.
Okay. Now, does it have any poems about marriage?
Yeah. Um, my my wife, when we were having problems in the beginning with the video, my wife came in to try and help me. We've been together for a very long time. We've been together for 25 years. And I think, as anyone will tell you who's lived with someone for, lived together for that long, it's wonderful sometimes, it's hard sometimes, but also that person knows you so deeply and intimately that you can't fool them. That's also what's very important about marriage. You can't pretend, because they know when you're pretending, or you're trying to be brave, or you're acting stupid. They know. So yeah, there's a lot of poems about marriage in here, and it's not. When I was younger, I knew how to write the kind of love poems that are, beautiful, and I know that people would write to me about these poems, but I know better now that it's not something to just think of as an ideal state. It's not. It's a partnership. And together you get old, together you get sick. You go through a lot of things. And if the two of you end up together as we have, then you've been good friends more than anything else. You've been lovers, you've been companions, but mostly you've been good friends. And I think that's what a marriage is. So yeah, there are poems in this book about that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Next year will be my 20th marriage anniversary.
Wow.
It's been a
See?
long time. Yeah,
So
I know. I know what you mean.
you know what it's like. When you go to a movie, a romantic movie, the end of the movie is they got married and it's
Yeah,
all wonderful.
yeah,
That's the beginning. It's not the
exactly.
end.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
wonderful wedding is not the end. You're not then in paradise. Then you're in for a long slog of trying to figure things out together. So,
yeah, exactly.
mhm.
Okay. Now, you sustain a rich creative life over many decades. What advice do you have for poets and writers that are starting out?
That's easy. It's the same thing I've said to people for years. You have to be disciplined. You have to try and work every day. If you wait for inspiration, you're never going to get anything done, because it happens sometimes, but you're lucky when inspiration hits you. So you have to train yourself to sit down and work every day, and to bring whatever inspiration is, to bring it into your life, into your thoughts. And you have to be open as you're going through your day. You have to be open to feelings you have, or even just words that occur to you that you think you can use. So it's mostly discipline.
Okay. Now, how do you approach creative blocks? Like at the time when you don't, well, I guess you mean maybe with use of discipline, you create a habit to overcome writer's block or
Yeah,
so-called
that
writer's block, right?
that's never, luckily, that's never been something I encountered. I did stop writing for a long time, a very long time, but that was a choice. I had gotten, not I'm married to my wife now, but I had gotten married before, and my husband was a musician. I was a writer. Nothing was working out, and we both decided, oh, we're going to be normal people. So he got a job with Con Ed, and I got a job, and we moved to Queens, and we were masquerading as normal people, which neither one of us was. So I stopped writing in that time while we both tried to be, a nice little housewife and a nice little house husband. He wasn't. He was a crazy drummer, and I was an artist, and we were not made to play house. So that was the only time I stopped. but I've never, thank God, I've never really encountered not being able to work when I wanted to.
Okay. Now, was there one piece of advice you got from someone else that still resonates with you?
I'll tell you, it's the opposite. When I was younger, I was in my 20s. I was around because of my landlord, Harrison, and just all that. I was around a lot of very famous, very important, really talented writers, mostly men. And I thought, that's who I have to be. That's what I have to do. I have to be an important novelist. And I'm not I've written novels, but that's not who I am, and that's not really what I do. So the advice which I finally decided to give myself was, you can't be them. You can't live somebody else's life. You can't want somebody else's career. You have to do what you do, and you have to write what you write. And I think that goes back to the whole thing about being disciplined. You just can't decide, you can't wish for what you want. You have to work with what you have and be disciplined about using what you have. And that usually works out. You're not
Okay.
fighting yourself in that case.
Now, one last question. Are you working on anything new?
I do have this book of short stories coming out in April, King the Wonder Dog and Other Stories. Unintentionally, I wasn't what I set out to do, but it turned out to be a book of short stories about how pets, animals, uh, are very intertwined with the life of people who are getting older, and how not just, oh, it's nice I have a little doggy, but the symbolism of having the animal and caring for it, and also the problems, and it just, anyway, it's all about the symbolism and the magic and the pain, because you lose them eventually, of having a pet. I was surprised. Like I said, I hadn't thought that that's what I was doing, but that's what it turned out to be. And after that, I'm trying to write. I'm writing another book of short stories. I actually write too much. I have more stuff than I'll ever get published. So I'm just I just keep writing. I write a lot of crap. I mean, a lot of stuff has to you have
Yeah.
to throw out a lot of stuff, and you have to be able to tell yourself, well, that was fun, but it's not good. So that's also very important. I think a thing to learn, that not everything that you write is really, it's not what it should be. It's not as good as you can be. So you have to learn to throw things out. I once wrote a book. I worked on it for a year, and when I finished it, I said, okay, but it's not good. It's you enjoyed writing it, but it's not good. And I have a closet full of stuff like that. So that's fine, though. It's fine. That's part of being any kind of artist, is to know that not everything you do is gold.
Okay. Now, Eleanor, you're going to do a reading. Can you give us a bit of context and then you can start reading?
As I was saying earlier, this this is a new book. It's called Oleander Marriage, and it's I think it's about two things. It's about grief, and it's about coping with grief, and it's also about using grief as a way of letting go of it and going on with your life. You can't pretend that it's not there, but you also have to find a way to let it sit somewhere else, because if you have it with you all the time, you can't cope. So, and actually, I'm going to start with a poem called Grief. What approaches in the night, the endless night? Not monsters. They're old friends from a flickering screen. Tokyo dies again. The nuclear monster stomps back into the sea, and I want to know where he has gone. Where is he now? Then a woman dies in 1964 with only her cousin to hold her hand. Lillian, that was the woman's name. My father is somewhere screaming. Where's my brother? Where am I? Now a cat is yowling in the night. Now I feel the absence of my dog. Decades, decades, decades march on, and I still don't know how to recover. God, I'm old now, and still I wonder, where is she? If her ghost would appear, I would learn to talk to a ghost. Instead, I live in a dark house, a lonely house with a lonely wind coming wild through the windows. She left in winter, but I remember spring, sitting at the kitchen table, a strawberry pattern on the oilcloth. Did she love me? Who can be sure this far away in time? And the cat is still yowling in the night. It never stops. I can go on writing this forever, but it won't help. Sunny days won't help. They are disfigured. Even my body is disfigured, or so it seems to me. I don't look like myself anymore, and of course that makes it worse. She was younger than I am now, and the cat is still yowling. Mourning doesn't help. Grief was anger once, but now it's only what it is, what it does. And it is still approaching, sitting beside me. Lillian, it says, and the nuclear monster howls from the depths of the sea. It had a mother once. It knows. So that was really directly about trying to deal with my mother's death. Let me see if I can find something that isn't quite so direct. All right, this actually is in a way a continuation of that poem. So this is also dealing with grief. The Avenue of Trees. Women with European accents lit cigarettes with delicate hands. No one ever thought of questioning them as they walked along the avenue of trees. Wasn't it so beautiful how the trees bent down to listen to their whispers, their remarks? That happened long ago, or it happened in a dream. Either way, the image contains the antecedents of everything that followed afterwards, including why I left home with all the invisible baggage I could carry, and a belief that my work was as good as a religion, and that love would come in time. Love that would provide a shelter in the rising dawn in a sacred grove, a humble place of solace. But as you've surely guessed, my dears and darlings, I was wrong. So many bonds have been broken since the time of avenues, of quiet walks. So many desires rotted like old wood. Now the trees only listen to the wind that bends their branches, and they refuse to say what they are told. Yet here am I, still believing that somewhere there is a box made of willow bark and planetary particles that holds a message someone needs to read to me. If you know what it is, please call me on any invisible telephone that will be made available in time. I still need to share these dispatches with my mother, who was a woman with a European accent. It is my belief that she carried cigarettes in her purse, and everywhere she went, the trees burst into flames. All right, so we'll leave my mom behind for a little. This book is in two sections. The beginning section is grief, and the second section is called Menemsha. Menemsha Pond is a place in Martha's Vineyard that I loved very much. This is part of the book that's Menemsha. Margaret's Cottage. Dark heavens, troubled roads, moody women staring out the window at bare-boned skies derived from dreams that cannot be interpreted. That's why I know now that is what I see. But when I wake each backward day, I always think that I am back at Margaret's cottage, where the sheets are fresh as early morning and spring is rising, verdant, fragrant, in every cup of coffee waiting in the kitchen. Is it too much to start all over again? The tarot says yes. So do the zodiac and all the herbs whispering in Margaret's garden. So I take the pain pills, open the shades, and let the year, this year, play itself out as if it were the first or last. No one believes me anyway when I try to explain in another language that the golden days march on, beautiful and blind, with nothing to say to any of us, not a word, not a clue, never, nothing at all. And let's see what else. I wish I could think of something. I wish one of these was a little light. I usually have a lot of humor, but I can see that I didn't use that in this book. Here, fiddlestick. Oh, I'm in a French mood tonight, looking out the window at the moon lying lazy on her back in a tattered velvet sky, and the flowers that bloom in the rubble of the night, weaving their petals into chains, and those chains into the vast rubble of love. Oh, yes, this is a night for chandeliers, when I have eyes on the faithless sea that rises and falls with my endless grief. Admit nothing tonight. Break everything that can be broken and banished, and let it be known that the heart is nothing but an old fiddlestick lying forgotten in the grass. And yet, tonight this dark house shudders. The windows allow the wind free rein of all the territories of the great and deep unknown, when forgotten footsteps suddenly are heard again, and a locked door opens. Words are spoken. Yes, tonight, words are spoken. But me, with so little left to say. Oh, it's a very sad book. A lot of sad poems. Well, here, we'll maybe finish with this. This poem was actually about my dog. Witch walking. In the damp gray hour just after dawn, a light wind, hesitant, not sure yet whether to claim what claim to lay upon the day. And here is me, old, getting older, a woman with a small dog, a modest dog. I am a modest person, waking, dressing to take my pet out into the possible wind. Also, in this poor county of women and witches, it is the hour when the witches are permitted to walk their dogs. Always they stay on their side of the street, I stay on mine. Here in this county of wreckage and grief, at least this is a safe hour. No spells are cast, no damage is done. In acknowledgement, we wear our traditional costumes. For me, my old frayed jacket. For the witch, my witch, a long black dress, torn in places with a dirty hem, and she has a cloudy eye. Sometimes she nods at me and I nod back. Her dog is enormous. Actually, I think it is a wolf. Red eyes, sharp teeth, exactly what you would expect. Then, as the years go by, I sometimes think that I hear this animal speak to me. In truth, the dog I have now is not my first dog. This is not my first witch. And in this life, the only one, things seem to be repeating themselves. And so the house gets cleaned, the groceries are delivered. I try to hide the damp gray hours in the closet, but you know how the story will be told. She crossed the street. The faithful dog followed. But even I can't tell anymore if I ever went home. More? Let's see what else.
Maybe one more?
Okay. Let's see what else. Trying to find something that isn't so quite so grim.
Okay.
Second Life. Actually, this is a poem I think that includes my brother. And he read this poem. My brother and I have been very close friends for all our lives, and we lived together through a lot of very difficult times. And he read this poem and he said, "Oh, you wrote that about me?" Yeah, I did. Second Life. In the third age, it is a foolish dream to want a second life, but impossible to stop wanting. And not a city life of factory jobs and widowed grandmothers installed in tenement rooms, weeping as the girl I was walks down into the subway to walk up again into a soaking morning, wet shoes, wet world, dodging the wind that scours the city with waste and grit. Instead, let me take my brother's hand and lead him down a sunlit road as if into the tales told by a farmer's dog in a library adventure book. Green meadows forever, clear creeks, bluebells, phlox, and Queen Anne's lace. All the lovely, lazy country too far away to make an escape for sister and brother already late for school. I hear the train on the high tracks outside my bedroom window when I was a child. It's night. The train rounds the last turn, and its steel wheels shoot sparks of golden fire beneath the only moon I saw. I'll ride the train soon, downtown to the life I led. I went where it took me. What else could I do?
Thank you very much for spending time with us today.
Oh, sure. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. It's lovely to have spent the time with you too. You're a lot of fun. I enjoyed this.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
For more upcoming episodes of the Artsy Raven about writing and publishing, visit us at jfgarrard.com/arpodcast. A reminder to Patreon subscribers that there is bonus content available for every episode on the Patreon website. If you enjoyed the show, you can show your appreciation by buying us some digital coffee. The Artsy Raven is produced by J.F. Garrard. The voice in the show's introduction is Chris Gorman, and music is by Tim Moore. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe.